Renting will keep you broke and unhappy. So many people say that renting is better than owning, but they leave out the factors that often can hurt your finances. Sometimes it's not as straightforward as looking at a rent versus buy calculator. There's so many factors that they leave out that you have to take into consideration when renting or buying. After owning a house myself, I want to share why I will never rent, even if it can seem more expensive using a rent versus buy calculator. I'm also going to show you some of the reasons that aren't financial that have an impact on whether you own or you rent. Because at the end of the day, even if your finances can be slightly better off, it's not always the best option for you. First of all, you have to be constantly thinking about moving when your lease agreement expires. Moving definitely has a big cost to it, and even if you do the moving yourself, it's still going to take your time and energy, and sometimes even asking other people to help you, especially if you accumulate a lot of things over time. Moving every 12 months means that if you accumulate a lot of things, it's going to be very hard and expensive to move that from place to place. If you have kids, this becomes even worse because you are potentially moving them into a different school district. Now I know you're thinking you don't necessarily have to move when your lease agreement is up and you can always sign the next one at the same place. But the problem with that is you are subject to the mercy of the landlord. If they want to raise the rent, you have no choice but to accept that higher price if you want to stay in the same place. With home ownership, you can choose to move when you want to, and you can plan it out a lot better. The second reason is that a lot of these rent versus buy calculators will take into the fact that you are investing the difference that you could be making by renting versus owning. So say if renting actually is cheaper than owning a house, they're taking the difference of the money that you would be saving between renting versus owning and investing it into the market. But you have to be very disciplined to do that every single month. And my guess is that most people actually aren't investing that difference. So you need to have an extreme discipline to be able to invest that difference every single month for the duration that you are staying there in order to make the rent versus buy calculator make sense. And by the way, I have a personal finance community where I go deeper into these topics if you want to learn more, so I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out. The third reason is one of the greatest reasons why real estate is a popular investment choice for many people, and that is because real estate has leverage unlike any other asset class. You can control a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 asset with just a 10th or 20th of the fraction of that price. So that means if you bought a house for $500,000, you might have only had to put down $50,000, but you are still taking advantage of the growth on a $500,000 asset. So even if $500,000 went up over 10%, say in 3 or 4 years, that is $50,000. So if you put $50,000 down, you've now made 100% return on your investment in just several years. As a renter, you can't take advantage of that appreciation. The housing market is not always guaranteed to go up, but over time it generally has. The next reason is not as financial, but it impacts your life significantly as a renter. And this is the fact that you can customize your house to your style and your needs and wants that you like. As a renter, you're again at the mercy of the landlord with their choices. And most likely they're going to choose something that's durable and that is going to appeal to the most amount of people. So this means that you're going to be stuck with the millennial gray that we've always seen the rental spec, or a basic beige on all of the walls, which can be, in my opinion, very boring. If that's your style, go for it. But to be honest, it doesn't give you many choices when it comes to renting. So landlords are going to choose things that last a very long time and don't always cost the most. So when it comes to things like appliances, they're going to choose the most durable option, not necessarily the best option. And sometimes a lot of landlords will even choose the cheapest option, knowing that they'll replace it for a low price in the future, but hoping that they can get by with a cheaper option and hoping that it doesn't break down. But as a renter, you can be stuck with low quality appliances and low quality fixtures throughout the house as a result. With homeownership, it's easy to choose higher end appliances and fixtures and things of that nature to enjoy it in your personal life. And because landlords are choosing durable items, they'll often opt to keep things out of their rental properties. This can be things like ceiling fans, which is really important, especially if you live in a hot climate. Now I know that yes, you can go and buy your own standalone fans, but it's still nice to have that as a feature added into the home from the start. Something else that you've seen a lot over the past 2 decades is this laminate flooring. So you see this laminate flooring everywhere in rental properties, and if I throw a picture up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So unless you're going with a high-end property, you're probably going to be stuck with whatever flooring that the landlord has chosen. With homeownership, you can put premium quality appliances and materials throughout your home. And this is more of a psychological benefit, but it's nice to have nice materials throughout your home that feel and operate great. Next up, ownership has a forced savings plan versus renting. So every single month that you're paying your mortgage, part of that is going towards your equity in your home. Whereas renting, that's going to the landlord who is paying off the mortgage on his or her loan. So while you're renting, you're building up no equity in the property because you don't own it. Over time, as you pay the loan down, you're going to build more and more equity in the property. And if you're able to, even as you're paying it down in the beginning, you can pay extra towards the principal to bring down the loan balance. If you think over a long term, such as 20 or 30 years, think about the owner versus the renter. The owner has been making their monthly payments the entire time, the same as the renter, but the owner has paid down their equity tremendously and will even pay off the loan at some point, whereas the renter will be subject to market increases every year, so the owner's payment has stayed relatively the same. So insurance may have gone up and property taxes may have gone up, but their principal and interest will remain the same over the life of the loan of say 20 or 30 years, but the renter's payment will always increase to the market rate. So for example, if we think about 2050 in the future, a renter might be paying $5,000 per month for the average house, while the owner may be paying only $2,500, while salaries have significantly increased since then, making it much more affordable for the owner in the long run. And at some point, they may even pay off the loan, which means that they only have to pay the property taxes and insurance. As a result, there is a popular statistic just recently that said homeowners have a net worth that is 43 times more than renters. Now that does not mean that homeownership leads you to have a higher net worth, because higher net worth people are generally buying homes more often, but it can definitely be a contributor to that statistic. So as a homeowner, you're forced to make payments into the equity of your home and build your net worth, whereas a renter, that is just going to the landlord. So the next one is one of my favorite parts of home ownership, and that is home appreciation through improvements. A lot of people like to call this forced appreciation. So just by maintaining the home will generally appreciate over time. But forced appreciation is when you make improvements to the property to make it more valuable through these improvements. And there are a number of different ways to make a property more valuable. Some of the cheaper ways that you can make a property more valuable is just by keeping up the cosmetics of the home. So if you improve the paint on the home, if you improve the landscaping of the home, and if you just improve the fixtures such as the lighting fixtures or the handles and doors. Another way you can improve the value of the home is by redoing some of the bathrooms or the kitchen if it is outdated. Many houses on the market nowadays are all original, meaning that some of these houses built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even early 2000s have the original fixtures and the original bathrooms and kitchens in it and flooring. So it may have been maintained well, but it is becoming outdated at this point, and this is a great opportunity for you to go in and modernize the property. This makes it more valuable to potential home buyers in the future if you happen to sell your property. At the end of the day, renters don't have the opportunity to make this investment into their own asset, but just are at the mercy of the landlord of making the improvements if they deem it necessary. The last reason is that there is a psychological benefit to owning your own asset, especially if you're young. So the average age of a homeowner nowadays is approaching 40, and it may even be higher now. There's a great sense of pride when you own your home, especially as a younger individual, but it is a big achievement at any age. This builds confidence in your finances and your ability to control an asset. Owning a home is something that reflects your own identity, and you can make it how you like it. You could be proud of something that you've made improvements on and grown the value of over time, especially if it is somewhere where you have raised your kids and built a family in. With renting, you may not have the same luxury of building the memories in the same place over time. Alright, so these are the reasons that I think ownership is better than renting, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think that renting is still better than owning after hearing these reasons? I'm curious to find out, so I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.